Well, Wade, first of all, I want to say thank you again for agreeing to do this. These sessions have been really great, just sort of listening to people share their stories. And tonight, I'd kind of like to begin at the beginning and just ask you to share a little bit about your background and where you were raised and how you kind of got on the path that you have found yourself.
As we talked the other day, it's a lot of twists and turns, a lot of plot twists to the story, but I was raised in a little bitty town in Oklahoma called Bethel Acres. I was raised in a little bitty Church of Christ, and I moved to Nashville around 92 or 93 to pursue music. Mm-hmm. And I felt I'd been through 4 years of college, and I had enough credits to graduate, but I was no longer interested in that. I was tired of it. I knew I didn't belong there, so I decided to try my hand at Nashville.
Now, when you were raised, your dad was interested in music and singing and playing, and so you had a background when you were 11, 12 years old, kind of playing with him. Yeah.
Again, you know, we had talked previously, and I don't know how much of this I'm supposed to share, but I'm hoping that you guys will find a little humor in it and maybe see where I'm coming from. Like I mentioned, I grew up in a little bitty Church of Christ, but my dad was a singer and a songwriter, and he'd moved the family to Nashville when we were kids. But I grew up playing in honky-tonks with him, and my mom was kind of the rock of the family. And I was playing in honky-tonks. He always knew where I was. I stayed out of trouble. But I'd be doing that, and I'd be on the third pew from the back at the Lakeview Church of Christ every Sunday morning after a Saturday night honky-tonking. But I was a kid, and I was 14 years old when I started all of this. So. And that kind of explains all the craziness that goes on in my head, the two different ends of the spectrum that I grew up in.
Mm-hmm. And so your dad played music and had a secular job through the week, but at some point he kind of followed his dream to come to Nashville, and you all came with him.
Yes, he had gotten a little traction going in Nashville. He'd been going back and forth, and had kind of gotten some people trying to start a record label and whatnot, and ended up moving the family to Nashville. And we were here for around a year, and everything fell apart. And my parents ended up losing everything. And we ended up having to move back to Oklahoma. And that was very difficult, and basically starting from scratch again. It was tough on all of us.
But you kind of had that in your blood. You learned to play the mandolin and then the guitar. And
yes, I started, I'd always loved music, and I knew that it mattered to me more than it did most people. And I always thought that was odd, but I just loved it so much. It was so important to me. And I started playing bluegrass type music when I was about 9 on the mandolin, and then moved into country music. And I started playing the guitar, and I didn't share this with you, but it's kind of a funny story. And I hope I don't make my wife mad, but I was at church camp, and I noticed I was about 11 years old, and I had been, playing the mandolin, and I noticed there was a guy with a guitar, and he was surrounded by girls. They were watching him play, and I thought, I'll learn to play the guitar. So I went home and went after it, and that's.
And so Wade, when you were, you told the story about how you were in college and you'd done a few years, and you really developed a sense of call to go into music.
Yeah, I had, been going to school for 4 years, and I actually had enough credits to graduate with a degree in general education. And I had no idea what I was doing. That's a very difficult age for a young man.
Yes.
To not know what you're doing and have gone through college, and I knew that I wasn't doing what I loved. And one evening I was watching the CMA Awards, and I've gotten to tell Ricky this story since then, but I believe this was 91 or 92, and Ricky Skaggs was on there, and he said something that changed my life. He said, all of you young artists out there who are struggling, you need to stick with it because that's what you're called to do. And I knew he was talking to me. And so I started making preparations immediately to get to Nashville.
And so you made it to Nashville and made a couple of contacts here and there, and
yeah, I started playing lead guitar. I got in a job here. I was telling you yesterday that my life got 110% better the moment that I got here. And I knew I'd done the right thing. I knew that I was being guided. And I look back on that part of my life, and it was ethereal how it happened. It was nothing that I did. I was guided, and I know I was. And I would give anything, for those days to be that clear again, because I knew exactly what was going on. But I'd gotten a job. Do you guys remember Johnny Lee, Looking for Love, Johnny Lee? He had a bunch of hits back in the 80s. He was here in Nashville, and I got a job playing lead guitar for him. That was my first big job, almost immediately. And people were coming out. I would warm up for him. And record label people started coming out to watch me play. And the next thing I knew, it all happened very quickly. I had a publishing deal with Sony Tree, and then I got a record deal with Columbia.
And things seemed to be going well. I mean, you were writing music and singing and playing, and you had success. You had a #1 hit, and you had music charting and all of that.
Yeah, I had 3 #1s and several top 10 hits, and it was a very, very exciting time. I was a very naive country boy. I had never been anywhere. I had been to Texas maybe once or twice in my whole life before I came to Nashville. And all of a sudden I'm on a plane going all over the country. It was an amazing time.
And I've got to think your dad must have been absolutely so proud of you.
It was a wonderful time, and it's been fun to remember all these things because it was such a blessing, and it was like, it's hard to explain. I always considered myself not the greatest at anything, but I really tried hard, and I was incredibly fortunate. I'm very thankful, and I know I was incredibly fortunate.
Yeah. So life's going reasonably well. Life has ups and downs here and there. But when you were 41 years old, something happened in your life that really sidetracked you.
Yes. The moment that changed my life forever. I was still riding a bus around the country and flying and playing live shows. And there was a night before I was supposed to fly to Houston. And I doubled over in pain, and I couldn't straighten up. I'd never experienced anything like this in my life. And it was enough. It was a pretty serious, without getting too graphic, it was a very serious situation. I lived alone, and I had no idea what to do. So I did what any ridiculous redneck would do. I took a couple of aspirins and went to the plane. Yeah. And I got back home. That's exactly what I did. And I got back home and went to the doctor. It was that serious. I knew something was wrong. Yeah. And they recommended I get a colonoscopy. And then I go in for the results, and I knew immediately that it was bad news. I could see it written all over the doctor's face. And he said the words that I'll never forget, and it changed my life forever. Mr. Hayes, you have cancer. Oh. And there's a tumor the size of an orange in your large intestine, and we need to run further tests to see if it's spread.
And so that started this first journey that you had with cancer.
Yes. We ran more tests and discovered that I was stage 4, and it had spread through most of my liver and my lymph nodes, and that's just what they could see. And before they did the initial surgery. And so some friends of mine in the music industry heard about the news, about the diagnosis, and they got me in to see some specialists at Vanderbilt. And I know, again, that was another God thing, because I would not be here with you today. I know that, had that not happened.
Mm-hmm. And so you got to the specialist, and Wade, one of the words you used as we talked the other day was this sense of hope. Hope is a powerful thing.
It's a game changer.
Yeah, and you somehow had that when you were going through this experience.
Well, I didn't at first. Mm-hmm. When I realized how much trouble I was in, the initial surgery was a marathon surgery. They removed 20 inches of my large intestine, 60 to 75% of my liver, my gallbladder, part of my diaphragm, and a bunch of lymph nodes.
Wow.
And this took all day. And then I wake up to find that I have approximately 5% chance of surviving. And that, which anybody who's going through that, I would not recommend ever reading statistics, because it is not good news. And I went on with this, and it took about a month to get out of the hospital and get back on my feet where I could start chemotherapy. And again, they put me on the most powerful stuff they had at the time, and they took me to the brink. I went into anaphylactic shock towards the end of the chemo, and it was another harrowing experience. They had to bring the crash cart in. I always went to chemotherapy by myself. I never wanted to put anybody else through that, because it is not fun. So I always went alone, and fortunately a nurse walked in and saw me, and they brought the crash cart. And so I made it through that, and I was still, worried about that. And you'd mentioned hope. The man that I credit most of this success here to is a man named Jordan Berlin, and he's my oncologist there at Vanderbilt. And he introduced me to a man that had made it 8 years, and he was diagnosed very similar to me. And when I saw that it could be done, when I met this man and spoke to him, it gave me hope, which I didn't have before. And it was a game changer. I was ready to put my head down and move forward and fight and do whatever it took.
Hope is a powerful thing, and it's one of my favorite words. We don't use the word like it's used in the Bible. In the Bible, it's very confident. Hope in the Bible it's like confident expectation. It's believing in God so strongly that God's going to get me through it, or God's going to bless, or whatever. A lot of times we use it in the opposite way it's used in the Bible. We'll say, well, I hope it doesn't rain today, when we know it's going to rain, really rain. So for you to have hope, that's a powerful thing.
It was a very big deal, and everything that you had read applied to me. When I first started this, I was in such bad shape I could not pray for myself. And I credit this to all of my friends and family who prayed for me. I know, because I couldn't do it myself.
So you were, and I kind of understand. I don't understand exactly what you've gone through, but as you know, I have a loved one who has experienced this, and I just remember how hard it was to pray. How you're just knocked on your backside.
There are many reasons, and physically, and then emotionally. And one of the scriptures you read earlier stuck out to me, because I remember finding it on my own when I was searching for answers. This hit me out of the blue. I had no idea I was as sick as I was. And I had even spoken to a doctor about some symptoms that I was having, and it wasn't even a consideration to have colon cancer, because I was too young and I was in good shape. And there's no reason I should have had it, but unfortunately I did, and it was almost too late.
So, diagnosed at 41, and you found a good doctor, Dr. Berlin.
Yes.
You got your family and friends, and they're praying for you. And you struggled for a year and had this long, incredible surgery, and you felt they couldn't find any more cancer.
They felt pretty good about it at the time. And I remember them high-fiving each other and thinking that everything was going to be okay. And I made it exactly a year, and it came back as stage 4. That's what it does. When it's spread throughout that far, that's what it does. It reappears. And this time I had a tumor in my lymph nodes near a major blood supply to my abdomen. And they had to do chemotherapy prior to surgery this time. And so I got to go through that and another round of surgeries. And honestly, I've lost count of how many small procedures that I've had to go through just to get my liver working again. And it's amazing. It's fun, or not fun, but it's good for me to remember all of this stuff and realize just how far that I've come through this, and how thankful, how fortunate I am to be here still.
And so when you found out you had it a second time, I mean, how did that affect you?
It was tough, and especially the first time when you're facing it, you're pretty pumped up on adrenaline, and all of it is new, and you don't know what to expect. But this time I knew exactly what was coming, and it was a lot more difficult the second time, actually, just emotionally. But it is, as much as a physical fight, it's a mental fight as well. And so just knowing that it could be done, it was very helpful.
And they went back in basically to the same place and did another similar surgery.
Yes, I was opened up the exact same place. It's it's a pretty big opening, and my whole abdomen basically, and they backed the tumor. The new tumor was near the original cancer site where it had started. So I guess for some reason they didn't get all of it the first time or whatever, but it had started growing again.
And you told me something, and you know, here we are talking about this, and you had stage 4 cancer. So that means
it's metastasized. It's spread throughout your body.
And when you have stage 4, at least with colon cancer, it's a pretty small window of recovery or chance for recovery. It's single digits or that sort of thing.
What I was told and what I read was I had a 5% chance of survival. When they found out exactly how much cancer there was and how far it had spread, it like I said, most of my liver was affected, and a lot of the lymphatic system. So,
and your doctor said something to you at one point about how blessed and fortunate you are to be with us today.
I had forgotten about a lot of this stuff, and I remembered Dr. Berlin, his right-hand woman, was a lady named Jamie Flynn, who she'll forever be a friend because she met her husband, her now husband, as he was working on my liver, and she was assisting him. They met and hit it off, and over my liver. And they got married, and they're happy as could be. So. But I make light of it, but she told me, do you know how many of my patients in your group that has survived? This out of the blue one day, and she said, one, you're the only one. I was the only one that went through the same situation in our group that lived. So.
Wow. So how has this affected your faith, your walk with God, and that sort of thing, Wade?
Well, I do have to say, I fight that old man daily, and Leah can certainly tell you, I get bogged down in daily stuff and worries of this world, but situations like this where I get to think about what has happened and how fortunate I am to be alive, I know for a fact there is a God, and I know that I saw a miracle happen, and I believe with all my heart Jesus is who he says he was, and I feel peace when I come here, and I've met some wonderful people here, and I love coming to church. I hate it that my job takes me away from Nashville so much during this season. In the winter we get to come a lot, but I feel a lot of peace here.
You said something that I thought was fascinating when you were describing way back when you were 21 or 22 years old and you're watching the CMAs, and there's Ricky Skaggs, and he's talking about using language like call, like this is a sense of call.
Yeah.
And now you've gone through all of this, and it would appear to me that there is a sense of calling now, that you can be a blessing to people.
I definitely have a different job now, and I know that. you had mentioned earlier, the verse that you led with is one of the verses that I landed on when I was searching for answers, because I was very upset in the beginning, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what I had done in this life to deserve. Why did this happen to me? I've always tried to be a good guy. I fall short daily, but I've always tried my entire life. Why did this happen to me? And then I read in black and white book so I can comfort somebody else that's going through it. That's exactly why. How in the world could I tell somebody, I know what you're going through, and if I hadn't been through it myself? And I can't count the people that I've talked with and prayed with after shows post-cancer. And it's just part of the job now. I mentioned to you, I'm trying to, as I was coming to see you, and I got a little emotional the other day, and I apologize for that. But okay. There was a young man that had emailed me that is about to lose his fight, and he doesn't know what to do, and he's asking me for answers. And I don't know what to do, but pray for him and try to help him in any way that I can. But that happens a lot.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting to me that when we go through things like this, that seemingly are out of the blue, like your story, that here you were, you're successful, you're getting to sing in front of thousands of people, and it feels like relatively easy to you. I mean, you watched your dad who had this dream and struggled and wanted to do that, and now you're actually getting to live out that dream, and then suddenly you're hit in the face with this. And it's almost like it's natural for us when we start asking the question, what did I do wrong? And the truth of the matter is, you didn't do anything wrong. We're part of this fallen, broken world where stuff happens and there's no simple answer to why something happened to us. And yet that's such a natural thing that we ask.
I'm just selfish enough to ask that question.
Well, but we all ask it.
Yeah, and it's difficult. But as you mentioned, this is a broken world, and unfortunately, colon cancer is becoming one of the highest forms of rates of cancer, and it's happening in younger and younger people. And like I'd mentioned, it wasn't even supposed to be a consideration for me, and I know you experienced that as well, but it was. And I'm talking to people in their 30s. This kid I'm talking to in Canada is 29 years old, and he's stage 4, and it's spread to his liver and lungs. And it's young people all the time. So, while I have the opportunity, if you guys are experiencing anything, do not hesitate to go get tested, because it's one of the most treatable forms of cancer that there is if you catch it in time. And you have a great chance of getting through it if you catch it in time. But if you don't, then unfortunately it's about to move into the second most lethal form of cancer.
And because of your calling and your work, you get to write music about stuff that everybody deals with or stuff that you've dealt with. And you've written a couple of songs about your experience, right?
I have. And my songwriting has changed a lot prior to cancer. And I'm more concerned with real things these days. And I had written a song called "Is It Already Time" when I was first diagnosed and wondering what was going to happen. And that, as I told you, I kind of write songs to keep me out of the psychiatrist's office. That's how I deal with things. And Leah would argue that I should probably try something else. But after the fact, I had been through stage 4 twice, and I was sitting in Dr. Berlin's office, and we were going over my blood work, and he said, "Wade, this is a pretty big deal." He said, "You were stage 4, and now there's no evidence of the disease whatsoever." And he looked me in the eyes and he said something I'll never forget as long as I live. He said, "You need to go live your life." And he was telling me two things. He was saying, first, this doesn't happen very often. You're very fortunate. And he was also saying, you were stage 4. This has a tendency to come back. You need to go live your life. And when he told me that, I had to write that song, Go Live Your Life, and I wrote it with a friend of mine named Bobby Pinson. And the takeaway from the song, there are two things that the points that I were trying to make. And the first one was, we are not guaranteed tomorrow. This thing hit me out of the blue. I had no idea what I was about to go through. And secondly, John 10, I believe, is the verse, we're supposed to live life abundantly according to the Bible. We're not supposed to live in a spirit of fear. And that's what the song is about. And I'd had some internet pastor criticizing me about the YOLO movement, you only live once movement. You know, if it feels good, do it. And he said, that's what the song's about. And it really hurt my feelings, because that is exactly what it's not about. It's about cherish these days, this day, because that's what we're not promised tomorrow.
Yes.
And we're not supposed to live in a spirit of fear.
That's right. That's right. So I got a couple of questions. So the dog in the video, we're going to watch that song in just a second. Is that dog your dog?
Yes. I think so. It's been so long since I've seen that video. And to be honest with you, I was still really, really weak when I recorded this song and shot the video. It took a long time to get back to where I felt halfway normal. I had neuropathy really bad. The chemotherapy that I was on really has an effect on your hands and your throat and your feet. And you develop neuropathy. And it was very difficult to sing and play guitar at this time. But and my memory is horrible now, but especially from that time. But I'm hoping it's Jack. So
and the truck is yours. You get in the truck. That truck is yours.
Oh yeah. I've got a thing for old trucks. I've sold that one and gotten 2 more since then. But yeah, it was at the time. I wish I would have kept that thing.
And then is that your father? There's a picture early on in the very first part of the video, and we're gonna see it in just a second. So I'm asking all these questions to give us some clarity here.
I don't know.
Okay. All right.
It's been a long time. I do know that there were a lot of friends and fans that were dealing with cancer that are featured in this video.
Yeah, and they sent you pictures and all, so they're
yes.
featured. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, it's one of my favorite songs you do. I mean, it's a powerful song. It's a great song, and I thought it would be great for us to put it on the screen and watch it tonight.
Okay.
So let's watch Wade Hayes' song right now.
Take it from someone who knows life ain't fair sometimes, man, it ain't even close. You take a shot right on the chin. You lay there wondering if you'll ever get back up again. Well, it took a miracle to open up my eyes, but now I'll offer you some good advice. Go live your life, go chase your dreams. We got no way of knowing what tomorrow brings. Swing for the fence, take that chance. Don't wake up one day to see it's passed you by. Go live your life. Well, I made a vow, if I pull through, I wouldn't take for granted what I used to. I cherish each day, it's all we have. Man, you never know when it might be your last. There's nothing like thinking you breathe
reach the end, to make you wonder just what could have been. So go live your life, go chase your dreams. We got no way of knowing what tomorrow brings. Swing for the fence, take that chance. Don't wake up one day to see it's passed you by. Go live your life, we got down to it, and I realized the truth. My regrets were not in what I'd done, but what I didn't do. So go live your life, go chase your dreams. We got no way of knowing what tomorrow brings. Swing for the fence, take that chance. Don't wake up one day to see it's passed you by. Go live your life, 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 go live your life.
That's a powerful message, and that is a biblical message.
That's certainly how I wanted it to be taken. And I do that song. That's the last song I do every night out on the road. And before I do it, I tell people I thank God in the name of Jesus that I'm still here. I tell a little bit of the story, and I say I will tell anybody anytime. I know the reason I'm still here, and I thank God in the name of Jesus that I'm still here, and I want you to know that. And then we do this song, and that's the end of the show, and I want to leave them with that.
Yes, that's awesome. You know, Wade, you've got a great ministry. You know, none of us want to go through the things that we've gone through in life, and yet, as we said earlier, our greatest point of pain can be our deepest sense of ministry. And so I appreciate so much what you're doing. I appreciate so much the ministry you have, that people, you have an opportunity to help people understand that real healing and ultimate healing is through Jesus.
That's a fact.
And you get to be a part of that and share that. So,
well, thank you, and I appreciate you. Leah and I love this church, and we love you guys, and we're very thankful to have a place to come where we feel such love from everybody. From my first meeting with Cheerful Charles, and he was one of the first people that made me feel so comfortable and welcome, and one of the biggest reasons I came back a second time. Mm-hmm. And I felt a peace like I hadn't felt in 20 years when I walked in these doors all those years ago, and so we're very thankful to have this place.